Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Ken Carey. I'm a direct sales expert for the last 30 years working with big companies, small companies, and entrepreneurs, and Fortune 500 companies, and every size company in between, from solopreneurs all the way to the big Fortune 500 companies. And I'm here talking about, specifically today, we're talking about if you confuse your audience, you will lose your audience. And we're going to give you 4 steps to simplify your message. Why am I talking about simplifying your message? One of the things that we've been doing so successfully in our direct response agency is that we help companies put together a concise selling message that introduces people to a product, attracts customers, educates them, and through the whole process of why they would want to buy a product or a service and turn them into a sale. And that we've been doing that through infomercials over the last 30 years. And it's been very successful, and we have built a multi-million-dollar agency built on that. But the strategies and tactics that we have done to do that are applicable to anybody of any business of any size. How to really streamline your message? How do you put together the right concise selling message, whether you're selling yourself, a service that you provide, a product, or whatever it is, or your company? How do you streamline that message? Making the message that you have very simple to understand. You've got to be very specific about putting together a concise selling message. So what does that mean? How do you do that? What kind of tips can you give us to do that? And I have 4 tips that I want to give you. The first one is you need to know what it is that you want your customer or your potential client to know about what you offer. That's an important issue. It's kind of a question you have to ask yourself, is that if they can understand specifically something about you that you have to offer, you need to understand what that is going to be, so they make sure they perfectly understand that. Because you could talk about a lot of different things, but if they're not clear about what you have to offer, then you're going to confuse them. Next thing is, you want to know what your customer or your client cares about. Because if you talk a lot about your message or your presentation, whatever it is that you sell or whatever it is that you provide, if you're not talking about what they need, it's not going to really help them. So you could talk about all the things that you want, but if that's not what they need, they're not going to be interested, and you're going to lose them, you're going to confuse them, you're going to frustrate them, and you don't want to do that in your selling message. You need to understand what is important to them and address specifically what they need. The next tip is what I call, don't get into inside baseball. And inside baseball, what does that mean? And I use that analogy because I have a background in sports television. My wife has a background in sports television, and we covered a lot of sports television events throughout our careers. And what happens is, if you're not within baseball, for example, let's talk about baseball in particular. If you're not within the know of baseball in terms like squeeze or other types of terms that people use in baseball, you're not going to know what's going on. You don't understand what's happening. Those are terms that other baseball players use, and they can all understand what they're talking about. Take that analogy and utilize that in your own business. So if you're talking about something about your category, your market, your business, or your world, and you're trying to communicate to somebody else what that is through the vernacular that you would use in your business, you're going to lose people. They don't know what you're talking about. Keep the specifics about what you're talking about, keep them general so anybody can understand. Because if you start talking inside jargon, you're going to lose people. And it's very common to do that because you have so much knowledge in a topic or an area that you think that everybody knows what you're talking about, but they don't. Keep the inside jargon to a minimum. Keep your message extremely simple so anybody can understand it. And my 4th tip is stay away from the extra details, okay? And I can see this, and I fall victim to it myself, is that you get to know something about a topic or your product or service, whatever, and you can get so deep into the details of what your product or service does, and in so many different ways to go with it, that you're just going to overwhelm somebody. So you have to keep it very top line, top shelf information. Don't get too deep into the details, because if you get too deep into the details, you're going to confuse your message, and if you confuse your message, you're going to lose your message. You're going to lose your audience because you confuse them. So take those tactics that help you master your message, help you simplify your message. You're going to get just get a lot more engagement. And that's what it's all about.